Hey neighbors, the Handyman here with Initiative Coffee Company, along with The Fault in My Stars, Jake Del Maro, and today we're talking about DDAL 3-7, Herald of the Moon. Writer Matt Hudson, editors Claire Hoffman, Chris Tulach, and Travis Woodall. This is a 4-hour module for Tier 2 play, tuned to 5 8th level characters. The party is tasked to put a spirit to rest at the Evenden Abbey. After traversing the corrupted Corman Thor forest, the party must navigate the Abbey and the spirits that remain. Part 1, Ghosts of the Past. Once again, Eleanor Elacidil is in a pickle and needs able-bodied adventurers. This time with a private family matter. An ancestor is bound to an oath, and their spirit needs to be put to rest to free it. The party can solicit some information on the Corman Thor forest and Eventide Abbey before heading out on the road. Time is of the essence, and delay has consequences. Jake, start us off.
LL still doesn't know who the hell you are.
Yeah,
Let's just
maybe.
be very clear. Like, I don't think I played that up so much because it's like, who are you again?
Right.
Interesting that they've gone down the route of making certain who is or making it like a character. I guess you're getting their private quest line at this point, or at least the one quest you
Right.
get. It's really neat. There's enough details, and it's nice. It's relevant to the area. They're not going to build a random mod. I mean, who would do that? But you're told that Labelless Anorith, who is her someone in her
Her
family,
some number of great grandparents.
so yes, her
Yeah.
something in her family was part of a major name dropped event, the Retreat. Mayra is her name, who swore an oath to Labelless Anorith at the temple at the Eventide Abbey. So that's neat, but kind of a random drop of events. I feel like if Brian was at my table playing his season 1 character, I would have had extensive backstory about what happened during the retreat. Be aware that there's stuff out there. Sometimes they make stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just a general rule of thumb out there. Beyond that, she gives you a coin known as a shade coin.
Mm-hmm.
Someone has to hold it. Mark in your notes who's gonna die. Not for them to know, but for
Right.
you to know. It's
It'll
important.
come up.
It will come up, and it will direct the last combat. So
the
that's
the idea
big
here is
one.
the person, like, the shade coin tells you how much time you have left. So if it stops being shady, I guess, you're out of time and the end changes mildly.
Yeah. So
Um,
and that's also something I really like about some of these mods, because some when they have a time component where there's consequences, I rarely come to part of it's your fault if you mess it up, but it also is up to the adventurers to keep moving.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't, stuff happens. But I haven't really run into any table to my knowledge that really just was we're just gonna long rest this one out. It's all right.
Yeah.
I haven't had that happen, but be aware it exists. You get paid well, I guess.
I mean, you used to. Now you get paid average.
Well, it's a total of an X amount of gold, which comes out to be, I guess, max gold. Who cares?
Yeah.
There are some missions in here that are clan or faction specific, but not as appropriate now because we really don't have factions anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And the faction overhaul system. That if you want to go look at all the other mods we talk about factions, go do that. I'm not going to worry about it here. But the defunct factions exist. There's extra missions, great, that give extra detail. I think if you're looking at those, they can add extra detail to people that are adjacently aligned to said factions.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be interesting and could get
have the one background feature that allows factions to be relevant.
Exactly.
You know?
Other than that, I don't think there's too much that's oh no. It's you go and find out some more about the Eventide Abbey. It was in the Starwood, southeast of Elventree. It's gonna take. I mean, it's a distance. It's 90. It's 155 miles away from where you're currently at. In terms of route progression, so it's not going to happen in one day. So maybe you could have if you're looking to kill some time, or you're trying to fill time, or maybe this is not a convention setting and your players are cool with adding stuff in and they want to tell more about their characters, maybe this is one of those times you're like, hey, on the route, have a character situation where you give it inspiration because they told something about your character or something that's happened. I like doing that. I like those kind of events because it builds a little bit more into the story, and you can lean into those things to help you and progress throughout the rest of these.
Yeah, and it can help the party really kind of come together also, right?
Yeah.
Like having those sessions really gives the opportunity for the party to get to know each other better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say other than that, I think you keep moving along. I mean, it's a lot of traveling and any details you find that are highlighted in the mod, but it's go to this place, figure out what's happening, help this person get their soul rested, and
the mod suffers a little bit from Lord of the Rings syndrome, where a lot of it is a long travel
on safe roads.
Yeah, on safe roads, hand waved over the course of 5 minutes.
Yeah, so there's not really much cutting. They've done a lot of the cutting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would really say about that.
Anyway, part 2, Corman Thor. As the party reaches the forest and traverses to the Abbey, they must manage time and madness. The forest is as subject to corruption as the lands around it and is suffering. Early in the forest, the party encounters 2 bullets. Upon reaching the Midwood, the party faces dangerous environmental hazards, more combat, and a social encounter to free the treant Brightleaf from their curse. The Starwood features an encounter with a drow camp for the party to manage. Up next, Jake, what's going on?
So so as you get into the forest, you had as you said, you had to manage the time and the madness. It's funny because you enter the nest of 2 very in love bullets, so that's a thing, and I like it's how it's like as soon as you find out what this is, you feel the ground shake, and it's like, oh, it's not really much avoiding here, but I think it's cool to encounter once again more denizens of the forest and other creatures that are still once again Underdark adjacent. They're fun. It's a fun combat. It's a tough combat. They can do damage.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't think it's out of the question. I mean, you're now either if you're just coming out of the 3-3, you might be level 6, level 7, or whatever. You might have played something in between. So be still aware of what the combats have because they still can do a lot of damage. And knowing the fact that there's a time restraint, it works as a double-edged sword. It's fun. People are still moving, but they're gonna withhold some of their resources until it might be too late. And knowing the fact that they can't heal, or they can't, or not necessarily can't heal, they can't rest as efficiently. Because they can rest, it's just they're going to be suffering from saves. But just, be aware of the damage. If the party is ill-equipped, I mean, you should know your character. You should know some of your players and know it might be a drop-out or a pickup table, but, I think you can gauge that stuff when you ask, hey, what level are you? And they're level 10. It's like, well, right. You maybe can take a hit. So just be aware of all that stuff. I don't. You then encounter after the nest. You encounter
a thicket.
Midwood. And then you find hill giants.
And a giant boar.
And
hill giants aren't nothing. They're pretty.
Yeah, no, they're not. They're not as bad as the fire giants,
right.
But you got 2 hill giants and
they're hucking rocks. It's still 40-10 damage.
Yeah, it's a lot of damage, and then you had Treant.
Yeah. And the tree, I guess the tree end is more of a puzzle than anything else.
Don't just encourage your party not to be jerks. Treants are not fun to deal with,
and B known to be not evil things.
Yeah, they're literally good things. And it should come off if anyone's going I'm gonna throw an axe at it. It's don't.
Right.
Make a nature check. Everyone make a nature check.
Right.
And then I think my line would be, they are not bad creatures.
Right. Yeah, the combat there should be the 6 vine blights, not the tree ant. And
yeah.
I don't know, remove curse on the tree ant is a pretty straightforward way to get rid of a curse on a tree ant.
The other thing that's to note is this could be a spot where if they wanted to take a rest, they'd still have to make some sort of save. But I would say that at least it's protected. They're not going to get ambushed.
Right. Brightleaf would be willing to like.
Yeah, he'd be like, I'll stay here.
Curse removal. Yeah. I think that's right. I think it's.
He's not gonna let his like the people that just helped him.
Yeah.
Like he's not gonna be like, okay. I mean, he's not gonna help you like in terms of the rest of the mod because that would be silly.
Right.
But it's a treant who's appreciative of what you've done. Like once again, still in line with what treants would do.
Right. He can stand guard for 8 hours. It's fine.
Yeah. So just be aware of that. Yeah. I think that.
And then the Drow Camp and the Starwood. This is a weird, like, there's a lot of ways to deal with this encounter. You can just bypass it entirely with the right stealth checks. Otherwise, it's 9 Drow.
There's a lot of motives.
Drow. Yeah, there's a lot to manage.
It's like, it's important for that of a potential faction, but it's like, there's a lot of motives here. Getting into them would be sounding like I need have a board in the background. Like this person doesn't like this person, who doesn't like that person, who likes this guy. Like, just read through it. If you're like, I would just. It's good to be able to do these kind of things in a good learning spot because you know the motives of everyone here, and it's not really any like. It's only like 2 or 3 main characters, and like if one of them dies, the rest of the Drow are like, oh.
Yeah.
She was a jerk anyway.
Yeah.
Like,
I will say that this is one of the few modules that incorporates story rewards from other seasons. So you have a better chance of convincing Ilstaj to kind of take charge if you have the Bolt Smelter's book story reward, Friends in Low Places.
Yep.
So that's kind of a neat, like, kind of callback if...
Haven't really done that.
Yeah, I mean, if that's a thing that comes up. It might be tough just because Season 2 ends pretty late in Tier 2. So the idea of, like, running more Tier 2 mods after you've run all of Season 2 is challenging.
Yeah.
But if you've got people who are kind of, like, plugging in modules from different seasons, that might come up. There's a wizard spellbook here that's not
silly.
Terrible. Pretty good spell book.
It's a pretty decent spell book.
I don't know.
But I think, like, once again, at any part this far, you can cut some stuff out, but I don't really believe that there's that much you need to cut out.
You shouldn't need to. I would say, like, if you're short on, if for whatever reason part 1 took a long time because they were just, like, really excited to talk to people in Elventree, I mean, you can cut the Hill Giant fight.
Yeah, like. I don't think you should cut the treant fight because I think that's an important like part of like, hey, the corruption's hurting everything.
And it's an interesting encounter regardless.
Yeah.
I think like the thing about about a pair of hill giants and a giant boar is it's just sacks of meat and damage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's not a lot of like interesting aspects to that combat, unlike the treant where it's like, oh, we need to cure this curse and deal with these vine blights simultaneously. Yeah. And then there's a reward for it, and that now we know a tree, like all those kinds of things. The Drow Camp, it can be completely bypassed. If you've got an Emerald Enclave member and they want to do their a Harper member and they want to do their secret mission, you're kind of like boxed into running that.
Having to do this, yeah. But I don't think it's also bad to run as a DM if you're newer. So. Like, this is like one of the more like fleshed out kind of disagreements.
There's a lot of information here that's beneficial. You don't really have to come up with much on your own.
Yeah.
So just read through it a couple times and know how it goes.
Exactly.
Part 3, Eventide Abbey. After finally reaching the Eventide Abbey, hopefully the party still has time to end the Spirit's Oath. They'll need to navigate the Treetop Abbey, manage encounters, and the risks of being so high up in the trees. Upon reaching the Abbey's fane, the party encounters the spirit of an elven knight compelled to attack the bearers of the coin given to the party by Elenel. This is another bit of a dungeon crawl. This is a little bit more fleshed out.
At least there's no like just things that like push you off the treetops. Like,
right. Yeah.
Like there. you will die if you fall off these things. Like,
Yeah.
unless you have like feather fall or fly, like
Yeah.
you're gonna die. Like that's just how that happens. If you fall out. So just like, there's exhaustion checks. Climbing up to the top of the tree. Uh, I don't think there's anything crazy here. It's kind of it's pretty neat. Like going through this, there's some puzzles. That's pretty neat. I don't
Black
really.
pudding encounter.
There's it's an enjoyable amount of detail that doesn't feel like it
I will
feels
say
more.
that this like mini dungeon crawl tacked on to the end of an adventure, there's enough information about every room that none of the rooms feel
Worthless.
silly, right?
Yeah.
Like it
It's
doesn't
not
feel
like
like
3-3.
anything is underdeveloped. There's enough info here for everything. I'm a little disappointed with like the consequences of timing, right? Like if the magic coin is still magic, you fight the knight and get their boon. If the magic coin is not magic, you fight the knight and get their boon. Like there's not really a consequence to not making it in time. So it kind of feels irrelevant. Like that timing kind of feels irrelevant. But that's, I guess, just kind of my opinion of it.
Our table, once again, this what I think is funny, and I liked this portion the most, is that our wizard friend carried the coin into the final fight, and she like crit him, and he went down. He went instantly down, and was like, "Oh, okay." And like realistically, that's kind of what she wanted to do, is just kill the thing that had the coin. Like you could always go out and say kill the the walls have been done, but like no one else has got a coin that has that same level of darkness. Like, which it also represents like a high level Netherese person.
Yeah.
But like when you get crit by an oath bow, like
it's game over.
Yeah, you're kind of gonna die. Like, it's not like there's much like movement there. It's just you're gonna get hit and it's gonna hurt. Like, so it was a silly. I don't even say it. It was kind of anticlimactic. It was just the roll happened as it did, and it was like, well, she kind of did what she wanted to do, and then like her not like, and then like understanding that it was her, like you released her soul, like. Because she had validated and done everything she needed to do.
The object of her oath is to defend.
Was complete.
Is to defend the Abbey from a Netherese invader.
And she did.
Having done that,
she's like, "Oh, thanks." Complete. And like, I even played it up to say like she crit him, and it was like, she was kind of disappointed. Like, just like, oh, that's all I needed. That's what all these thousands of years or hundreds of years I've been doing. Wow.
All right.
Awesome. Like, I guess, all right. And like, that was that. And everyone laughed. It was just, I could understand there's a point where it's like, this was kind of, you weren't going to be swinging with guns blazing. You kind of needed to take the L on this fight. Like, to release her soul. Because killing her would have been like doubly bad. Because like, you broke her, like, you didn't let her repel the people. So like, that's at least how I determined as a DM this fight should run. It's like, you should kind of throw your punch and let her wail on you for a little bit.
I mean, the benefit is there's also 2 banshees involved, so if worse comes to worse...
wail on the banshees.
Like, if worse comes to worse, you can just do a banshee wail and kill somebody, and that's maybe good enough. I don't know.
I don't know. It was the mod, I would say, has different components that we don't typically see. Like, your goal is not necessarily to destroy Mayra. Like, it's, at least that's how my interpretation of it is.
Yeah, like, and I think in the past we have talked about making sure that your party understands the objective. Right? And really focus on the objective over killing the things. I think oftentimes, especially in like an organized play setting, AL or otherwise, so much focus can be on killing things effectively, and not a lot is on like completing your objective, right? And like knowing what the oath is going into this, like one way to try to complete that is just to like feign death, right? And just pretend to die.
Yeah, like that. It's gonna feel almost, as I said, it's gonna feel anticlimactic as a player, but like having been playing in your game, Brian, not every single thing is a beat till dead, beat till no longer breathing kind of situation. You got to figure out alternative means to get stuff done, and as you said, the objective needs to be clear. It's like,
and it's
don't let her murder you,
right?
But like,
it's an objective that can be very clear from the beginning too, right? Like Eleanor knows what the oath was.
Yeah, right? It's not like she's hiding it either. She's like, she's bound until the, and she withholds that the shadow coin is
right. I mean that is unfortunate.
A little sus,
that she
but
tries
like
to get you killed by her ancestors.
But at the same time,
can rest. But
I feel like if somebody's gonna do somebody, I think you can make like an Arcana check, and it's like this is a Netherese like artifact or something.
Yeah.
Like it's not too far. I would almost not even need to make that a thing, considering she knows what it is.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. But once again, it's gonna feel anticlimactic at times, and no matter what, the spirit is still appreciative of what you've done.
Yep.
And I think that's, I hate saying taking your ball and going home, but like that's what you're gonna have to do. Like,
and honestly, like if you've got the right party, like that to me, like kind of upending the notion of a combat and like just playing dead to win a mod, to finish a module.
Yeah, doing a performance check to not be dead.
Awesome to me. Like yeah, that seems like a great, like that seems even way more preferable to like 40 minutes of slogging through combat. Like it seems like a blast. So I don't know. I think it's a fun little like.
It's a different variation of how the typical beat something until it's dead. Use your fireballs on everything. Like
right.
It's like you can kill her, but it's like you kind of missed the point of the mod.
Right. Yeah.
But you know, it's a fun. I think this is one of those enjoyable tier 2 mods that like has interesting aspects. It has weird parts in it. You've got.
I wish this came before 3-3. Because 3-3 really starts the path in the Underdark.
This one didn't make much sense in terms of like
placement.
Well, it does and it doesn't, but like because how they broke up these seasons is they were released chronologically. Mm-hmm. So this was actually released 4 mods after the 3-3, but it's this next tier 2 mod.
Yeah.
And I would have to look back at what was happening like during those mods, because like I mean you're not gonna be able to play a tier 2 mod if you're tier 1, but like.
Right. And you can kind of fiddle around with the way you run, the order you run these in. So I think there's a bit of a break where they're like, Elventry is trying to come up with a plan to take back Miramidra later. That might be a good spot to put this mod where she's like, we have to plan something, but in the meantime, go take care of this personal errand for me.
Yeah.
But kind of in the placement of like where it is within the tier 2 mods, like you go into the Underdark, you come back, you do this Elventry thing.
I guess that kind of is what it is. It is technically what we were saying, but it's like...
It just seems like you could really like ramp up the Underdark mods and really increase the suspense over, if you're in a weekly game, 4 or 5 weeks, and then do this as kind of like a reprieve or like a kind of a palate cleanser before you go back for the final Underdark encounters. But that's just maybe like a minor gripe. Other than that, I think I like this mod a lot. I think it is fun to run. I think it's fun to play. I think there's a lot of like unique, interesting kind of encounters and like success criteria and success conditions that don't exist in a lot of other modules. So I don't know, I wouldn't skip this one, that's for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyway, when defeated, the elven spirits no longer bound to their oath. The party is rewarded, and the spirits of Eventide Abbey are laid to rest. So there it is, DDAL 3-7, Herald of the Moon. Thank you so much for listening to some advice to streamline and run it for your tables. Be a good neighbor, give us a thumbs up, and subscribe. Toll the Dead for notifications. Find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Patreon, and from now, until the next time, roll together.